Good evening. Welcome to the CIGR Committee. We'll call this meeting to order. First off, can I get a motion to suspend the terms of video conferencing policy 2350 to allow
Motion.
the commissioner to participate via Zoom video conferencing? Motion by Vice President Beatrice LeBron. Can I get a second? Second by the President. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You good? Okay. Tonight, we don't have any speakers or comments. So, right now, we're gonna move on to walk-on resolution that we have. Let me give a quick explanation of it. Some of our CBOs, which is a community-based organization, because of staff shortage, had to relinquish some of their seats. And in order to replace those seats and provide a slot for our babies, we're going to get the services from Golisano Pre-K. I think that's the name of the pre-K people that we're going to get some services from. But it's emergency. We've never been in this situation before, and you can't just get staff off the street for pre-K. They have to be certified. And so what I'm doing now is trying to give you an explanation of why we had to break the 48-hour rule and why it's so important for this. So now I'm going to open it up for any discussion. Vice President LeBron?
Yeah, I just want to be clear on record that it is not RCSD who did not have the staffing, that unfortunately it was our community-based organizations, and because of that, families are going to be potentially impacted by that. But I just want to be clear that it was not us.
Yeah.
We have enough things to own. This is not one of those. Thank you.
Anyone else? I can't see the hands up there. Everybody else is fine. So let's take a vote. Can I get a motion to vote on this?
Motion.
Second.
Go ahead.
Is there a motion on the floor?
I'm sorry. There was already a motion.
Yeah, there's
It's
one already.
discussion.
So let me get the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. So
I'll do it manually.
resolution 88 passed with what?
7-0.
Okay. All right, so before we move on to the agenda, I'd like the community to be aware of our new parent rep on the CIGR. His name is Neil Osuch. He's sitting next to me. He's going to say a few words himself.
Thanks, Commissioner Adams. Hey, my name is Neil Osuch. Thank you for allowing me to take this opportunity to join the CIGR community as a parent representative. I'm from Buffalo, New York. I just moved back to the area a couple years ago after being around the country a little bit. I had an opportunity to live in Arizona in the Southwest. I had an opportunity to live in Montgomery, Alabama for 12 years, and it's helped shape some of my perspective on schooling and our kids and community in general. And so I'm happy to learn. I have very little connections to politics and stuff like that. So I come from with an unbiased, hopefully fresh perspective to things, and look forward to meeting everybody and learning how this committee works.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna need to know, where do your kids go to school and
okay.
what is their name?
Sure, I have two kids, two daughters, Emmy and Liza Osuch. They're at School 23, Francis Parker on Barrington. We live right around the corner, so we're involved. We're involved in the school as PTA members. My wife serves as a treasurer on the PTA, and then we participate in the rock music collaborative program that the Rochester School District offers as well. So we're involved in the community. I've been looking for a spot to get involved and launch myself, into the community. And for me, what better spot than, investing in our kids and trying to contribute in this regard. So, looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, and I'm shaking it up. I'm not going in no particular order here. I'm going to invite Carmen Torres from the Children's Agenda. She was a little nervous, so I'm going to let her get it out the way. She's going to present on equity funding for pre-K education.
Hello, everybody. It's so good to see everyone today. Nice rainy day out there. So my name is Carmen Torres. I'm the Parent Advocacy Coordinator of the Children's Agenda over at the Children's Agenda. And Eamon Scanlon, who's our Education Policy Director, couldn't be with us tonight because he unfortunately sprained his ankle. So please bear with me with what I am going to report out, because I do know what I'm going to talk about, but when you are not really well versed, it takes a little bit. So thank you, Mr. Adams, Commissioner Adams, for bringing up the fact that I'm nervous. Anywho, so let me just start off with saying that I want to just thank Charisma as well for ensuring that you all got the information, you all have the information that I brought today, as well as the sort of PowerPoint that I put together, or that we put together. So basically our goals on this report is to review how New York State funds the pre-K education, and identify funding problems for our CSD, understand the impact on community-based programs, and finally, to identify solutions. The Children's Agenda has been studying the pre-K program as well as pinpointing the priorities for the next legislative sessions. We are very concerned about the specific program because, if we can go on to the next slide, thank you. State funds for pre-K programs have not kept up with increasing costs. Funds for the pre-K program is annually distributed via grants each year, as you all know. Grants are based on number of children enrolled. Students need districts receive a higher per student rate than other school districts, and, well, held flat because there is no increase in per student rates since 2014. Next slide. The problem for the Rochester City School District cost of program goes up each year. But pre-K enrollment has peaked, so funding remains about the same and can only keep up with the cost by drawing from other funds. The problems for CBOs, as Commissioner Adams mentioned, they have no other funds to draw from. They can't keep up with the cost or pay competitive salaries, and that threatens sustainability. Our next slide, long-term consequences. The long-term consequences are similar to the problem with school lunches, where the low reimbursement rate leads to poor quality. So let me take you through what is currently trending. If a CBO closes, community-based organization, the cost goes right to the RCSD. It increases and absorbs those classrooms. So in other words, more classrooms have to be allotted for the amount of children coming in from CBOs as they close. But there is no additional New York State funds to help with that to happen. So the end result is that RCSD has to go and make up the gap out of the general funds. So in other words, you have to go into wherever general funds you have to be able to open up a new preschool room, okay? So all the checks and balances really are not checks and balances. And finally, what are some solutions? We brought some solutions to help with this gap, and that is to increase pre-K per student rate to account for cost increases that have occurred since 2014. The rate increases the foundation aid to automatically increase the rate as the foundation aid increases. So in other words, if the foundation aid increases by whatever percent, so should the preschool grant. RCSD should make this a priority for the 2023 legislative session and organize the Big Five to advocate collectively. So if there's any questions, concerns, or anything, I'm here to answer. No? Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, and have an amazing start of the school year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you?
Oh, sorry.
Actually, I do have a question. Where do we find that some of the where do some of the staff for these CBOs go? Are they being recruited to other organizations? You know, where do they end up?
That's a very good question. What happens is they find other jobs, okay? So basically, the amount that they get paid, let's just put it really clear here, with the amount that they get paid does not quantify what real life looks like, right? So basically, the pay doesn't quantify what they are in need for living life, right? So let's say if they find another position similar, they'll go there to other schools or to other programming, right? That they can continually increase their rate. So that's why a lot of them end up leaving, and we end up with no CBO specifically trained folks, which is what Commissioner Adams mentioned earlier.
Sounds like the same situation as SSOs. There.
Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you so much. And again, have a wonderful.
Before you go, is there
Another
anything
one.
else as far as increases? You're talking about payment equitability, but is there anything other increases that I would want to see what is increasing, you know, opposed to last year to this year?
Yes,
You know, with those
it's a
increases.
slow progress that's happening. I don't have all the data with me because, like I said, Eamon couldn't be here tonight. But definitely it's a trend that is happening where the increase is going up for us, but then decreasing for the CBOs in regards to folks that are able to service our children. So it doesn't balance out simply because those folks find different jobs, and then who's there to provide the service? There isn't anyone there because no one's taking those jobs.
Yeah, so you can get us that data. We'd appreciate that.
Most definitely.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, there's a hand up. Commissioner,
Oh, there's LeBron.
I see Commissioner LeBron. I see that little hand in the corner now.
Thank you. I just want to say, we also were all assigned community-based organizations, UPK programs as the board liaisons this year, actually, for the first time ever. And if folks have not visited their community-based organization preschools, I recommend that you do in this school year. I think one of the things you'll learn is that it's been over a decade since the rate has been increased for them. And then special ed in itself is also partly funded through the county and also not funded at full capacity. So things that have increased, for example, COVID, community-based organizations are expected to provide their own mask, hand sanitizers, and they're required because they're under the the Office of Children and Family Services to have those things still happening in their building, but we don't provide those things at RCSD. So I just want to be clear that they have to eat the costs and other rising costs that they have, and they're not able to do that at the same rate. And if there's a comparison that anybody wants to compare it to have an understanding, when we first started getting the 119 million from the memorandum of understanding with the city of Rochester, it was somewhere in the 27% range of the budget, more than almost 2 decades now. And that range is now less than 10% of the city's budget. So it's a very similar thing happening, unfortunately, when the rate is stagnant and it's the same and there are rising costs for the community-based organizations, and they will not be able to keep up. So I do agree, Carmen, and thank you for the presentation, that this is something that I'm sure it's not just impacting Rochester, because this is a New York State reimbursement rate, but certainly that the Big Five should be able to jump in and advocate around increasing the rate, and also looking at the county's rate for special ed for UPK, EPK as well. That's it, thank you.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, and thank you, Carmine, for drawing our attention to this. This isn't the only funding source that's been flat for a long time. I think CTE reimbursement rate hasn't changed since 2008. But I really appreciate that you brought solutions.
Yes, thank you.
The idea not only of suggesting that part of our legislative platform be to somehow tie pre-K to foundation aid is a sound approach, and to remind us who's there to advocate for and with us just shows the level of detail and professionalism that the Children's Agenda brings.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Now, at this time, I want to invite the new Director of Community and Parent Involvement, Keisha Holloman, to introduce herself and provide a presentation around OPE. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. So the Office of Parent Engagement, we are renewed, refocused, and reimagined. Again, my name is Keisha Holloman. I am your newest director of the Office of Parent Engagement. I have 20 years plus experience in the Rochester City School District, where I started as a paraprofessional, and then I became a school counselor, but in the role of Student and Family Support Services Coordinator. My recent position before Office of Parent Engagement was with the Rock Restorative Team, where I was a Rock Restorative coach. I am a proud graduate of East High School, class of 1992, via the Young Mothers Program. However, I was still able to graduate with my class at East High School. By the age of 20, I became a mother of 2. I have 2 sons, ages 29 just on yesterday, and then age 30. I am a proud grandmother of 6. While my story started a little shaky, I did not let my circumstances deter me from pursuing my dreams. My mother, who has been my inspiration, laid the foundation. Loretta Holloman, she's an assistant principal at School 5. So as she laid the foundation, I am now following in her footsteps as an administrator. Our vision for the Office of Parent Engagement is to reach, and the R is for respond to the needs of parents. The E stands for encourage partnerships. The A is for advocate on behalf of parents. And then the C is to collaborate with community partners. and the H is to help support parents with their child's academic success. There are 3 goals that I'm working on, 3 focus areas. Number 1 is rebranding the Office of Parent Engagement. Number 2, building stronger relationships with Rochester City School District parent groups. And then the last, number 3, is to provide professional development. Goal number 1, rebranding OPE. That would entail improving our customer service, some methods of interaction, customer service surveys for building principals and parents. We've had a great response from the parent surveys that we used this summer during some of our community events. We'll use all the data to improve our practices. And then all documents will be translated into a variety of languages. We will continue to attend community events, and I would also like to collaborate with the communications department to brainstorm marketing and rebranding ideas. For department collaboration, weekly meetings with early childhood education, placement, and the Office of Attendance. Goal number 2, Rochester City School District parent groups. So building stronger relationships with the parent groups. There are 4 parent groups, as you know, PLAC, CPAC, MPAC, and BEC. Our commitments would entail to attend all parent group meetings for the 22-23 calendar year. OPE department will support community engagements within school buildings and community events, assist with parent events, and then the standing one-to-one meetings with parent group presidents. Lastly, we will have an open invite for collaboration with parent liaisons and homeschool assistants. And then just a brief sample of our agenda for the monthly parent group president meetings. Parent group updates, and then OPE updates. Parent group compliance and bylaw reviews. Calendar of events. Establish timelines for parent groups, questions and concerns. Review and discuss parent group agendas, and then discuss some ideas for collaboration. And last but not least, parent university collaboration. And the last goal, goal number 3, professional learning. For the OPE department, there will be weekly professional learning sessions, which will include restorative practices, community school strategies and pillars, asset mapping, attendance strategies, effective mediations, and then a collegial book studies with the book School, Family, and Community Partnerships by Dr. Joyce Epstein, and additional topics will be added. For district-wide professional learning sessions, that will include strategies for developing relationship with parents, national standards for family school partnerships, again including the book School, Family, and Community Partnerships, restorative conversations, of course self-care, and then other topics will be added as well. For our parent liaisons and homeschool assistants, there will be monthly network meetings. Topics to include will be strategies for recruiting parents, partnerships for families, effective mediations, attendance strategies, and again, additional topics will be covered. Some additional supports, community liaison specialists. We have 2 in the department, but they will host bi-monthly meetings with parent liaisons and homeschool assistants. coaching and supporting parent engagements at the, at the building level. And then parent representatives, we have we have 3 in the department. They will support with mediations between school and parents, supporting parent engagement initiatives. And lastly, Parent University. This is currently in progress, but the restructuring of parent engagement will consist of offering a combination of in-person and virtual workshops, partnering with our CSD students, parents, and community, offering incentives supported by partnerships, and again, additional topics will be added. Finally, more topics to include for Parent University will be financial literacy, fitness and nutrition, restorative practices, and education workshops. Thank you so much for your time. Can we go to the last slide? Do you have the last slide?
That is the last slide.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure no board members have, President Elliott.
Thank you, Keisha, for the presentation. I've always felt, though, that the OPE was disconnected to the regular instructional day of our district. And so having said that, these things are fine, but in many regards, they don't connect with what's happening in the classroom. And so what I'm interested in, as you work with parents, what they need to know is, where are we in the district around ELA? And how can our parents help them? How can the parents help in terms of math scores? So they need to understand the information that we understand so that they can have an impact in the classrooms and so that they can have an impact with the other parents in terms of providing the parents knowing that information, because holistically they don't have that information. And I believe that that's an opportunity for us to inform our parents from an instructional perspective so that they can have an impact in the classroom. And we have not done that very well. We've had great success with having the parents to come out and socialize, but I don't think that we've done it strategically to be able to have that, because the parents are the most important and the most powerful force or group within our district, and we have not prepared them or informed them in a way in which they can have impact in the classroom and impact in their own children's lives and in their neighborhood. Because if we could tell our parents that in terms of ELA, we are at this level in terms of scores at this school and at this school, if we can give them that information, then they can also help us in preparing their children in order to increase those scores. We haven't done a good job of that. We haven't done a good job of bringing just basic common sense language to our families. We've sort of put them off in a, sort of in a parking lot, if you will, not giving them the information. And we're gonna have to do that if we're gonna move this district forward. So I'm expecting the Office of Parent Engagement to really begin to, the information that we know, because 80% of our students are failing, right? Our parents need to know that, and I'm looking for the Office of Parent Engagement to be able to communicate that and then also become a strategic partner in helping us to uplift that. That's gonna be huge, because if we know it, but if our parents don't know it, there's gonna be a disconnect and we're not gonna get the results that we think that we can get towards the end of the year. And there are some goals that the board and the district is going to be looking at. What can we accomplish about year end? Office of Parent Engagement need to be a part of that, okay? And so these things are nice, but we need to have those things that are going to get our children across the graduation line, to be career and college ready, to bring down that division between, being 2 grades below grade level and get them up to grade level. That's what I'm looking for the Office of Parent Engagement to be able to do. Help our children to get to grade level. Okay, can you respond to that?
Absolutely agreed, and actually we have been talking about that, discussing that with Parent University. And I will piggyback on the education workshops. That has been a topic of discussion, connecting with the departments, different departments for content workshops so that they can come in and maybe turnkey some things that are going on in the classroom or at the department level.
What metrics are you using in order to determine success in the Office of Parent Engagement?
That is something that we're still discussing. I don't have the exact answer for that, but I would be glad to revisit that.
And at one point, we had our parent liaisons being advocates for our parents. And part of that has been is that parent liaisons have not wanted to get involved and to be really an advocate for our parents because they feel that they're going to lose their jobs. I'd like there to be more work around that the parent liaisons are really truly advocates for the students and the parents that are in that school. They have not done a good job. Some schools, I should say, have not done a good job with the advocacy piece. And I go back to when I was in a special education hearing, and you know, I'm there with the parent. The parent liaison is there not opening her mouth. So we've got to get, if we've got parent liaisons who are getting paid to advocate for our parents, then they need to be doing that, and we need to be holding them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Adams, Commissioner Simmons, and Commissioner LeBron both have their hands up.
So I'll go with Commissioner Simmons.
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me okay? There we
Yeah.
go. I think everything's happening. I'm trying to lower my hand and there we go. First and foremost, I just wanted to congratulate once again Keisha Holloman and her new role. I've known her for several years in different capacities when I've worked around the district through other organizations, and I've always admired her work. And when I think back to some of the work that I saw her firsthand doing, I remember her inviting me to Links to help with some workshops and the students there. And so the commitment to our children, to our families, was definitely recognized and continues to be. And I definitely had the pleasure of serving briefly around your mother too when she was located at East High School. So I already know what we have in store for us. I did have a couple of questions regarding the presentation. I think you answered my questions around Parent University. But you also expressed that there's some surveys that went out, and I wanted to know first and foremost, do you have like a general pulse on some of the feedback that you've received thus far? Just a couple of examples, maybe?
Yes, we actually collected those forms, and we're gathering them in a database so that we can look at it collectively. But there were 4 different questions, like what parent workshops would you like to be a part of? What are some things that you like about the district? What are some things that we can do better within the district? And so parents were honest and they were transparent when they answered those questions.
Okay. And along the thread of Parent University, I really got to see some great work at Edison. They have a parent leadership academy spearheaded by Dr. Charmaine Cohen there. And to President Elliott's point, one thing I really enjoyed about that is that they are sitting there teaching parents about the requirements for high school graduation so that they can be better advocates for the education of their students. Do you see yourself linking up to school communities that already have some things in place and expounding on that through the Parent University, or?
Absolutely, yes. Actually, Edison is one of the models that I have been looking at, and I would like for each school to have a similar model. So definitely linking up with Dr. Cohen, learning more about her program, sitting in on some of the meetings, and then turnkeying that to the staff OPE so that we can coach other schools and getting started and having the same model.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear, because to see that pipeline and the versatility of the parents and their ability to, again, better advocate for their students' education was powerful. And my last question for you, Ms. Holloman, is around the community school strategies and pillars. I know that we have some schools that are designated or identified as community schools here in the district. When you talk about community schools, and we know that there's all these, at least 4 different main pillars that they fall under, do you see that being district-wide community schools, pillars and strategies, or just exclusive to the schools that identify as community schools?
No, in my opinion, I see it district-wide. And actually, Kelly is up next, and she will talk more about the pillars. But it's definitely a district-wide initiative.
Yes. Okay, I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner LeBron,
Yes, thank you.
Vice
And
President LeBron.
It's okay with Commissioner Adams. You don't have to. I just want to say though, to Keisha, to thank you for this presentation. Actually, I want to say like this is perhaps for me the most comprehensive presentation I've seen from someone going into the Office of Parent Engagement. And I had to uplift the fact that it is no longer a civil service position, which kind of helped and hurt, if you will. It had its pros and cons, unfortunately. And so I think it is a pro that it's not, because it really does take a special person to be in this role and to be able to navigate not only lots of personalities, but lots of ideas that individuals may have. I am happy to see that on here, there's going to be some support for the parent groups, because just based on what I've seen so far, you know, we had to disband PAC at one point. Now it's PLAC, but it was PAC before, for lots of issues that over time accumulated, and there was lack of supervision and support and guidance. But that group is also governed, you know, by Robert's rules and so forth. But I think there are some struggles around that area. And I was just asking not that long ago, who is supporting the parent groups and who's providing them with some of the guidance needed? Because what I don't want to happen is that parents try to join or want to join and then they're denied. And I'm not saying that's happening with this parent group, so I want to be clear, but this is some historical pieces of things that were happening with previous parent groups. So that for me is extremely important. And I really like that you are offering some opportunities for education and training as well for not just parents, but our parent liaisons, who I do think are very strong advocates. But President Elliott is right? They have to be able to advocate and have minimum, if you will, interruption from higher up. So I say that to say that their role is to be a guidance and an advocate and a support to our parents, and they should not be penalized for doing that. So I just want to put that out there as well. And that's it. That's all I had. I don't have any questions, just some comments for you, Natalman. And very cool that your mom is the assistant principal at School 5. I did not make that connection, but I love when I hear that our families work in this district. I was just talking about the Jackson sisters at School 9 and School 4, so shout out to them. But I do love when those family connections are in our districts, because I do think they make a big difference. So thank you again, and I look forward to meeting with you and working with your department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Patterson?
Thank you. The only question I have for you, you spoke relative to a parent survey. With regard to school safety, it's become a priority and we're working toward it being one of a goal. With regard to the survey, you know, number one, can we receive a copy of the survey itself as board members? I think we all should be able to take a look at that and, you know, see the results of that.
Absolutely.
And number two, can you recall if any question was on the document pertaining to the safety of our schools?
There was none, but duly noted now. We will definitely get that question on there. And as far as sharing a document, we can do that also.
Okay. Yeah, I think that we should all, in community with one another, you know, make that a priority the safety of our schools. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell?
Just to follow up on that thought, I was listening to NPR today about this being the first day of school in Uvalde, and how parents are very, very much distraught over sending their babies to school and worried that they won't come back home again. And so that's a super, super timely question. And no matter what the board chooses to do, it's important that we know where our parents stand on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to Commissioner Patterson one more time, President Elliott.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I forgot to ask one question. And again, I don't know if it pertains to your office or Kelly's office. What I've been looking for is a survey of students. Is there some point in time, I don't know if Kelly can answer that, Ms. Briggs can answer that, or you respond to that, but I haven't received any data, or a survey, from our students. So maybe Dr. Peluso might want to answer that. I don't know, but at some point in time, I like to, as far as school safety, see a survey, whether it's a prior survey, whether it's a new survey, to see the students' thoughts on school safety also. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Dr. Carmine?
Good afternoon. We do have other surveys. In addition, we have a youth at-risk survey that's actually initiated in the county as well. So we're able to compare data from county as well as district, as well as school to school. And buildings also have climate and culture surveys that they administer as well. So we have multiple surveys. We can get that information to you as well. But absolutely, beyond the Office of Parent Engagement survey, there are additional surveys from there as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just want to ask if what I've said to Keisha makes sense, that this is something that we can do, because what I would like to have happen, if Keisha's going to come back or have her to come back at another board meeting, at the CIGR committee meeting, to give us what she's developed in terms of strategies and connecting schools, connecting parents to our academic achievement. So I don't know, I'll turn to you, interim superintendent, and then to whomever I think is Dr. Black. So,
Go ahead, Dr. Black.
Good evening. So just as a highlight, all of the departments in teaching and learning are working on their key performance indicators as we've listed out, and so we'll be able to come back.
Which indicators?
Our key performance indicators.
Okay.
So each department is setting metrics and goals that we'll come back to the board with. It is aligned to your board goals. So we're in the midst of that work now, and so we'll be able to bring that information back to the board for our various departments, including parent engagement.
Yeah, I just think it's critical for our parents to know the information that we know, so that they are empowered to be able to help their children and also be able to help the neighborhood, because they are engaged with more than just their children, and they can communicate what our objectives are, what our key performance indicators are, so that they can help us. They can know where we are in terms of, academic, math, but just overall our current academic performance, so that they can help us to, reach our goals. That's going to be critical, a critical piece, I believe. And so, I'm looking forward to having that discussion with Office of Parent Engagement to know what has been done, what information that they have to help us in this regard. Okay.
Noted.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And before you leave, I'd just like to say, you started this presentation off with talking about how you basically, things didn't start well for you. I know your history. That's your strength. What you went through, young mother, growing up around Hanover houses, just that name, that experience that you have is worth its weight in gold. It's really something special. Never disengage from that. Hug that. That's who you are. That's what the community needs in this place. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you again for the opportunity.
So at this time, I'm going to invite Ms. Kelly Briggs.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm just gonna adjust this a little bit.
All right. I'm here to talk to you about the Strategic and Community Partnerships Department and the things that we've been working on. But what I want to first do is have you all pay attention to our first page, because a lot of people are still not familiar with our department, and we're working on rebranding our department. So the Strategic and Community Partnerships Department is the Office of Parent Engagement, and I have to say I'm so proud of Keisha Holloman, our new director of the department, who's only been there for almost 4 weeks. She's been at work from day one. Our youth development, which is the director, is Tony Jordan, who's also here. Our community schools director, Lizelle Taylor, our community schools department, and our volunteer coordination services. So this is the Strategic and Community Partnerships Department. And so I'm going to highlight some things that we're working on. Our vision. Our vision is to be a bridge that connects resources, supports, and programs through partnerships for schools, students, and families. And again, we want to highlight being a bridge. And then we go on from our vision to our mission. Our mission is to collaborate with stakeholders through a 4-pillar approach to develop and sustain comprehensive partnerships that support and accelerate student achievement from pre-K to post-secondary success. And so our goals for the Strategic and Community Partnerships Department is to ensure that all schools have partnerships that are aligned to their SEP or receivership plans, because we know that is very, very important to be in alignment with that. All schools have partnership goals, outcomes, and systems for measurement and evaluation. And then utilize a 4-pillar approach to deepen stakeholders' knowledge. And when we say stakeholders, we think of everyone, not just schools, but our parents and our students. So to deepen stakeholders' knowledge about partnerships through professional learning. And so one of the areas that we want to highlight is our initiative, Viewing Partnerships Through a 4-Pillar Lens. So we know that community schools strategies are not just strategies that are just for community schools. All schools can use these strategies. So what we're currently doing is working with schools to show how they can use this pillar approach to their partnerships. And so what we did during our leadership summit 2 weeks ago, we worked with our building leaders, and we've also been working with teachers throughout the summer, and we're going to continue to do that work, as well as with our parent liaisons and homeschool assistants, because again, everything that we do in our department, we all connect. And so we played this game, not a game, but we went through what we call the Take 5 protocol. And so with the administrators, we gave them our pillar document. And you all have that there. It's a pillar mat that we call it. And so what they did was they read through the community school pillars. And then they talked about what we call our Take 5 again. 2 examples of how a pillar is being used at your school, 2 questions you have about the pillars, and 1 idea you could implement this year. And so after they read about the pillars, then they filled out our Take 5 protocol documents. And then we had our strategic stroll cards. So what we did was we pulled from some of our partnerships, and we just put them in the form of cards, and we had our leaders take our pillar mats that they have, you see on the screen there, and they just discussed in their groups where they would think that each partnership would end up at. And if you all would like some of the cards, we can definitely make some copies and send them to you. So again, they discussed the pillars, which in how they can put their partnership cards under a pillar. And then the next slide, we like to call that the strategic stroll. So what we had them do was after they discussed in their groups, put their cards at their placement, then they looked at other groups to see where did they place their cards at. So that led to a deep discussion around partnerships, but how also the pillars are interconnected. So again, taking the community school strategies, but really working to share those strategies throughout our CSD. And that led to our next area, where we actually just took an example, a scenario that a lot of schools deal with. And this is something, again, from our Office of Parent Engagement, but all of us in our department want to get involved when it comes to attendance and several other areas. But we just took an example. So we started here with the Tier 3 attendance challenge. And that started with our pillar number 1, integrated student supports. And a lot of times when you hear that pillar, you'll think of the mental health, the dental eyeglasses, all right? So we had this scenario. We started with a Tier 3 attendance challenge, but then we quickly incorporated 2 other pillars: collaborative leadership and practices, active family and community engagement. So when it comes to collaborative leadership and practices, this is where we work with a team of people. It's not a one-man army, but a team. And then active family and community engagement, this is where you pull in our families, our students in the community. So you'll see there in the document and the example, we reached out to partners to assist our students. And Tony Jordan, who's on our team, again, we all work together. He pulled in our MBK fellows. We pulled in parents, district staff, some of our community-based organizations who have a lot of expertise in certain areas. Our neighborhood groups, leaders in the community, government officials, and our churches. And so what we did, we just showed how pulling in these different groups can help us as we all work together as a team, a community, to look at some strategies for this Tier 3 attendance challenge. And you'll see on the next slide, we pulled all 4 pillars together. This shows an example of them in action. So we started with the Tier 3 attendance challenge. Then, if you look at expanded and enriched learning time opportunities. Now, oftentimes, we just say, okay, after school program. But what we want to do with these pillars is really look at not only just expanded learning, but enriched learning time and opportunities. What other opportunities can we provide for our students in school, not just after school, but in school and even on the weekends? Internships, all types of things like that. And so you see there, in this particular example for expanded and enriched learning time opportunities, our students were able to participate in outside programs, and they learned job readiness skills through partnerships. We want our students as early as elementary learning job readiness skills, being involved in partnerships. So this particular pillar is all about that, expanding and enriching the learning type and opportunities for our scholars. Then our active family community engagement. We did weekly home visits with community-based organizations and members and connected families to resources. And then our collaborative leadership and practices. This is the glue that holds all of the pillars together. This is where we met with partners weekly. And again, we had the students that were part of it because they're partners as well too. So we met with partners weekly. We used asset mapping, which I've talked about several times, and resources and strategies. Again, having everyone at the table, their talents and their resources, we were able to connect. And then our next area, our partnership inventory steps. I won't read through all of these, but you'll see these in the document. Our team, we wanted to develop a tool for schools to use as they're sitting down and looking at partnerships. So you'll see number 1 there is reassess current partnerships utilizing the Strategic and Community Partnerships Questioning Tool. And I'll go to the next slide so I can just go through some of our questions that are part of that. So if you look at number 1, when you're looking at partnerships, number 1, what are the opportunities? What are the opportunities? A lot of times when schools contact me or my department, they need help with just looking at, well, what kind of partner do we need? So here are some questions that we compiled. What does the organization offer? What does our data show? What do our students need? What do our staff need? What do our parents need? So when we look at a partnership, we want to think about what are the opportunities. As we talk about improving our academics, all those different areas, what opportunities is that partnership or potential partnership, what can it offer us? And then number 2, the impact. How can partnering with the organization or group help improve our academics, attendance, receivership indicators, SEP commitments, enrichments, grade levels? One of the things that we found in looking at different schools' partnerships is having that focus, okay? So for example, if I am a 6th grade, and that's the grade I taught, I feel that's the best grade ever, but say if I'm a 6th grade teacher, what partnerships can we use for our 6th graders at our school? Okay, what partnerships can we have for our 3rd graders? A lot of times there are some partnerships that can be school-wide, but let's also look at what are some partnerships that we can have by grade levels. Number 3, alignment. How do our visions and missions align? Okay, are we on the same page? And here are just some areas. identify goals, results expected, measurement, evaluation, progress monitoring. And then the particulars for partnerships. Is a contract or MOA required? How much manpower is needed? If you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. So number 4, particulars. Is a contract or MOA needed or required? How much manpower is needed? So what we found, because we've also had to come to the table to talk to partners or to talk to different ones about their contracts, certain information they didn't have mentioned in the contract. And afterwards, after the contract went into effect, then they wanted to ask for certain data. Then they wanted to say, oh, well, we have this MOA, but we're going to need your school to provide staff for us. So these are the things that we want to meet with schools, and our plan is to meet with them and talk about these things. So even if you don't have an official MOA or contract, we have some type of agreement where we're making sure that ahead of time, we're doing that research and homework. And then the last one is number 5, the investment. Is there a cost? Is there a hidden cost? What resources are needed? Transportation, even though the partnership, it may be an MOA, it may be free, but did you find out if we're gonna have to provide transportation? Are we gonna have to provide food, supplies, or space? So these are our strategic and community partnerships questioning tool that we want to, give all schools, talk with them about this, and we did this at Leadership Summit, and a lot of schools immediately want us to start coming in and working with them. Next slide. And so our next area, and our final area that I'll be going over tonight, is professional learning offerings. We know that at every level in our district, and I'm telling you, Dr. Black tells us about this all the time, that professional learning is a must. And so our department, all of us, we will be offering professional learning throughout the district, okay? With every union, with our parents, everyone. And so when we were at the Leadership Summit, we just talked about superintendent's conference days, half days, monthly PDs, and other specified days. And so we've already had about 3 or 4 schools that have requested that we come in. And we also talked about we'd like to connect with different grade levels as well too. And so if you could just click on that document, the professional learning document. So we have a professional learning document where we are listing all of the courses that we will be offering from September to December. And we plan on updating this document, very often, because we also want to take in school requests, parent requests, all different areas. And so you'll see in that document, those are some partnerships that will be offered, focusing on partnerships. You'll see asset mapping as a community engagement strategy, asset mapping as an attendance strategy. So again, we want to make sure that everyone has access to these courses. Please go to the next one. And then you'll see some courses from our parent engagement department. So again, as Keisha mentioned earlier, these are some things that we will be working on. So each one of our departments, if you go to youth development, you'll see that Mr. Jordan and team will be working on courses around youth development. And then our last area, community schools. Lizelle has been working this summer, as well as myself, on offering several courses around Community Schools 101, and these are open to everybody. It's not limited to just community schools, because again, we want everybody to see how it's a powerful set of strategies that you can use. And then our last area, our volunteer coordination services, we will be offering professional learning in that area as well too. And so that's what we're working on in the Strategic and Community Partnerships Department. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here today. Are there any questions? Yes.
Commissioner Patterson.
Thank you, sir. So Ms. Briggs, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I thought it was really, really good, really great.
Thanks.
So I thank you for the good work again also that you and your team do. So I should begin with accolades before I ask questions. So number 1 for me, is this system, this is a new system, am I correct in that we're implementing?
Yes.
And has it been proven anywhere by any other educational institution or?
Yes. I can definitely provide you with information about community schools. It is a proven strategy. And so myself having the community schools background and also having a director in my department, we've seen how it definitely can impact a school district. And again, And a lot of the leaders and different teachers have said to us, why is it just community schools can have this? And so when you keep hearing people saying that, you realize we need to make a change. We need to do something different. So that's why we want to make sure that we get this word out, but actually through professional learning, train and teach everyone about it. And we want to do this through partnerships.
Thank you. And one more question, sir. I got to flip back to my screen.
Okay.
Let's see, on the first set of screens, slide number 12 and 13,
Okay.
you discussed goals,
Yes.
right? And being aligned with the boards and the administration's goals and objectives and mission. As we often put Dr. Black on the seat, I'm going to put you on the seat right now as far as how are you going to measure these goals? I think you don't have to provide me with the answer right now, but at some point in time, I think the board would want to see exactly how you're going to measure those. And I did go to the next screen there, and you talked about attendance data, IEP stats, New York State assessment scores, and suspension data, utilizing, those. But if you could, at some point in time, just let us know, if you don't know already, how you're going to measure,
Yes.
Those goals.
Definitely. We'll make sure we keep you updated. And as Dr. Black mentioned earlier, we are working on our key performance indicators. And so that is an area, we've been working hard getting that in place. So now we're going to start, working on how we're going to actually show the evidence of it.
Thank you.
So, I'm not sure if it was, your community partnership was about asset mapping or whatever it was. But I went to one of your events, and I've been to a lot of events. Across the country, I've been to a lot of events. And the one I went to here of yours was the most successful event I have ever seen. I was truly impressed, wondering what was your hook to get people to come? What was your advertising strategy? It was just incredible. And I just have to tip my hat to you for that, man. It was great. It was great. The one that I was there, it was unbelievable. It was so, the community was so involved, the law enforcement had to get involved because so many streets were blocked off. People coming in their cars. They had like 5 or 6 streets blocked off, full of cars. It was unbelievable. So I just had to shout you out for that. Thank you.
The thing is that we look at what do our people need. And when we look at it, especially from the pandemic and even now, we know that people, when you're offering food, things that they need, something that's going to help a family, then people will come out. And so we just had another event, and Commissioner Adams is referring to our food distribution events. This is something that we try to do at least once a month. And as we go more towards the holidays, we partner with Food Link. They'll be offering more of these. Sometimes we'll get it where we'll have 2 or 3 a month. But whenever we have these events, everybody comes and just lends a hand. We had a parent that came up and said, "Can I help?" And this is, again, because we're serving others. And that's something in our department that is number one for us. We are servants. We're blessed to be in this position because of our students and our families, and that's how we look at everything that we do.
All right, thank you.
No, I got a question. You ain't asked me if I had any questions.
Oh, we started off. Nobody gave me that look.
I've heard Commissioner Patterson, and
Okay,
so.
President Elliott.
So, thank you. So I want to thank you for the strategic plan. I think it's real comprehensive, and just wanted to share that. It really responded to all of my questions now. But when Commissioner Adams mentioned about, because what I'm looking at now is that how does all of this relate to instruction? How does all of this relate to academic achievement? And so, as Commissioner Adams was talking about the food drive, one of the things that can happen is that you can give the material around instruction, right? So, wherever we are in terms of, you need to help your child with this. Here we are. This is our status around ELA and math, whatever it is. But here's another opportunity to have some conversation around instruction, around making sure that they get to bed at night, making sure that they do their homework, making sure that, there is, contact with the school district as best as possible. So there's some more opportunities. You talked about asset mapping. So here's some opportunities to bring all of that, even in delivering food, opportunity around instruction. So I want, if you all would take that opportunity to put instruction there as well. But I think overall that the strategic plan is a very good strategic plan. It I started to write some questions down, but it answered all those questions. I think the one thing that I would ask is, so if a person is going to be applying to become a partner with the district, do they go to the Office of Strategic Partnerships first? How do they enter into the district to be able to become a partner with the district?
Thank you for that question. And before I answer, President Elliott, I wanted to say that you used community school pillar 3 and 4 in your response, giving us those ideas. So again, that's how everybody working together, telling us ideas.
Yeah.
But if a person wants to reach out to the department, what's been happening is that they'll either call myself or someone on the team or the schools. And what our schools have been doing, they will refer them to us. And so we do want to make sure that we put that process out there, and we are working on that so our schools will have that information.
All right, thank you.
Anybody on the screen?
Yes, I do have my hand up.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Simmons.
Adams. Yes, thank you. I also just wanted to acknowledge, I call her Dr. Briggs, Kelly Briggs, and the work that she's done. And like yourself, Commissioner Adams, it's awesome to see her at work. It's awesome, or like in the moment, watching her on the back of a U-Haul truck, or you see her out literally with a furry coat on. And so she's not just talking about it, but she's actually about the action, and she works hard. And I hope that self-care is part of that. But she's out here, and, I would just sum it up as she's got the juice. She's got the juice. When you talk about engaging and getting response, it really does come out very well. I wanted to make a comment regarding the questioning tool. I absolutely love it. I love the comprehensive nature of it. And I do believe that it's, it's not always about having the answers, but if you have the remedy of questions that you put in front of folks, it'll bring you to the answers as far as what needs to happen next. And you laid out a lot of good information this evening. One thing I would love to see is the distinction, because I think people, including myself at times, can interchangeably utilize neighborhood schools and community schools, and there is a distinction between the two. Yes. And I love the community school model. I'm a fan of both, but I love the community school model. And the other piece is with the information that you're collecting with the asset mapping and the evaluation of partnerships on some level, is this going to be something that you see as public facing? Like, will there be an area on the district website where people can kind of go in and say, hey, what's the newest, greatest thing happening with strategic and community partnerships? To get an update or even figure out how they can lean in and support or what have you. Do you see that happening or?
Definitely. And just earlier today, Chief Marisol Lopez was just telling us about, her communications department, some new people that are working there. So we're going to be connecting with them to keep that information updated. And there are some things that we have coming, but I can't really say it right now. Haven't gotten approved yet, but we are going to be doing more building on that asset mapping. And so that is coming. I did also want to talk about the distinction between neighborhood schools and community schools. And I hear that 24/7, and sometimes I'm like, okay, let me do a PD on that. But we've talked about that a lot in our department. So neighborhood schools, those are schools that are located in your neighborhood, okay? So like I grew up, there was a school right down the street from my house, so I went to that school that was right in my neighborhood. But community schools, they're more than just neighborhood schools. And you do have some models like School 17 where you have the neighborhood school inside the community schools. What community schools do, and I keep emphasizing those pillars, is that they offer this integrated approach to servicing our students and the families through connecting with partnerships, but not just, community-based organizations, but also our community groups, our neighborhood groups, our parents, our students. And so you can have a community school It can be located in a neighborhood, but the main thing that I really want everyone to take away is that community schools are a set of strategies that all schools can use. Doesn't have to be necessarily in the neighborhood. Now, it would be great if we can have both working together.
Thank you.
And I guess with that,
Thank you all so much. Appreciate for allowing us to be here today.
Thank you.
so. Next up on our agenda is board planning. You know, it's been, community forum here. It's been like 2 years since we hosted a community forum and 3 years since we had one in person. And for our new commissioners and the listening audience, the purpose of our community forum is to engage parents, students, and community and school stakeholders in a discussion around the important topics or actions that are currently impacting our district and our community. I propose this year's community forum take place Saturday, November 12th at 11 a.m. I'm hoping that there aren't any objections or conflicts. In looking for a central location for folks, I propose the location be school number 22, formerly known as school number 6. You know, are there any objections or other location suggestions? As a backup, I suggested that we use Dr. Alice Holloway Young's school. Any? President Elliott?
You know, I always got something to say.
Yeah.
I actually, think that this is a great idea, Chairman Adams, but I think we need to expand it to all 3 zones. So I think we should have one in the South Zone, or Southwest Zone, the North Zone, and the, I'm missing one. So I think we should have them, just to make sure that people, at different times and days, so that more people can attend these. And I also think as another topic, we need to add about academic achievement, and so that they can see the data as well of what we see. So I would also offer that for your consideration.
So you would be suggesting 3 forums. Commissioner Patterson, you give me that look. Do you?
Oh, no, I'm just,
Okay.
I don't know the impact that I
Just
have.
look. Did I anticipate?
Yeah, I don't know the impact that I'll have on staff and stuff, but, I'm thinking, and, maybe one in the spring, early, one later on. I don't know, but I'm thinking that we need to be out there a little bit more than just one time.
Okay.
yeah, I agree with that. I think it's
So, I got a couple hands up here. I didn't mean to cut you off. Come on. You agree with
sorry.
that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a great idea, that we spread it around, the city, like the president indicated. But I'd also like to include on there the topic, school safety. I think it's important that we have that dialogue continuously.
Okay. Commissioner Malloy.
I know, thank you. And I think these are great ideas. In terms of the November 12th date, though, there might be concern in that November 11th is Veterans Day. So there might, if we want to get a really good turnout, I'm just concerned that if we have it on the 12th, maybe people are out of town.
We're closed that day.
Okay. Commissioner LeBron.
Yeah, so 2 points. One, you mentioned the dates. I'm actually going to be potentially presenting to school board members across the country in Tennessee that weekend, so I will not be here the 11th, 12th, or 13th. And then the 19th, I would say yes, but I would caution the holiday and school break is a lot of people travel and or have family coming in town. And so there's a lot of prep. And I also have to include for myself that I have a new grandbaby coming that's going to be due around that date. My grandson is due on the 21st. Could come early, could come later, who knows? But I will also be bringing my mom to stay with me for a little while, and she'll be coming in around that time. So I just want to throw it out there because I don't think neither dates are ideal, but I also don't think that y'all need to plan around me. I just want to put that out there on the record, and I will put out reminders on my own social media. I love the idea of school number 22. They are a community school. We just had a conversation about the community school model. And then I am going to say that there is no such thing in the city of Rochester as a South zone. So if we did it in all 4 quadrants, it would have to be the Southwest and the Southeast separately, as they are 2 different community units. So I just want to put that out there. And then lastly, if we're going to keep talking about safety in general, people are going to have to actually give examples of what the heck they're talking about, because nobody wants to keep hearing that safety is a priority as a lip service without an actual example of what is being done or what is going to be done or implemented in the district. So I just have to put that on record as well.
Okay, so is there anybody else on screen?
Commissioner Adams, I did want to state that on the 12th timeframe, I may be in a professional development around that time, so that would be not ideal from me. The 19th might work, but the 12th timeframe I'll also be otherwise.
So I think what we'll probably need to do is probably, we're not stuck on that date. We can look at some other dates, because I think it's important that the commissioners be here, because we participate in when we've had it in person or on Zoom. You know, the commissioners participated in the room. It's important so that you be there. So we're going to take another look at it. Nothing is written in stone. We're just discussing it right now. Commissioner Powell?
Thank you. Yeah, the dilemma is that November and December are heavy on the holidays, right? The 19th is of the choices is probably a better date, because as someone pointed out, the 12th is a 3-day, in the middle of a 3-day weekend, and if anyone is going out of town, they're just not going to be able to participate. And then the following weekend after the 19th is Thanksgiving. So the dilemma is, if we start putting it off, we end up into December, and there's even fewer weekends available during the holiday preparation. So if you're asking for a straw poll, I would say the 19th is about as close to ideal as you're going to get.
Okay. Neil?
With the suggestion of 3 or 4 meetings, it'd be tough to sort of nail down a single date for this. I think the biggest impediment to parents coming to these things, if there's one and it's remote, is accessibility and transportation, not to mention work schedules. What about entertaining a thought of a week-long thing where it's like a week theme, of community forum, engagement meetings where there's alternate dates, and you could also address the different regions in the school district. It might be a little tough on board members to make that commitment for the entire week, but, it's a single.
Other meetings during that week, I'm not sure. We should have a standing work session that would be the 15th, so that doesn't include, I don't know whose committee, which committee that is. But I don't know how that works. I don't think we've ever done a week-long committee, so, a week-long event. And we also have to consider the impact that will have on staff.
So,
Commissioner Adams, I have my hand up again.
okay, you know something, let me take this moment to say that we're gonna really have to do something different about this screen, because you cannot see the hand. I'm looking up there, and now I gotta kind of like look around the corner, it's really very tiny. We gotta do something with that.
We'll talk with IT and staff about the tiny hand. So I have to say, I don't know about a week long. I do work full time, and right now it is a hectic. It's a low time, but we're about to go back up into a peak time, and then it'll die down a little bit after Christmas. So just with my own schedule, I would not be able to commit to a week long. And I do agree with President Elliott that, you know, typically this is put on by our board staff, but we do lean and depend on administration for different topics to also come in and present. And they also have other priorities. We do also try to keep this on a Saturday. But I do want to propose that November 5th, which is right after Halloween, and it's a Saturday before all the holidays begin, including Veterans Day, and then our break week, which would potentially, I think, would most likely start on the 23rd, since Thanksgiving is on the 24th, that we look at either November 5th, but I would also support even pushing it back to the 29th, or pushing it up to the 29th of October, and doing even like a trick or trunk type of theme that we can do with kids and costumes, and have like a kids-friendly type of event happening at the same time parents are learning, and work with some partners to do that. So that's another option. But let me just say, if we're moving it into 4 quadrants, that we also have to do public hearings, and that we're trying to do them in all 4 quadrants at the same time. And I also don't necessarily understand why we couldn't partner with the administration and kind of sort of do both, versus asking families to come out on multiple occasions for multiple different RCSD related things, which I do not think they're going to come for. And it's unrealistic to think that parents are going to, with competing priorities, come out to multiple RCSD functions and events. So I just want to throw that out there, because the administration just presented their dates, or some of their dates, for public hearing. And they have 3 so far. So I don't see why we couldn't sort of join forces on some of this.
Yeah, I totally agree with collaborating with the administration on dates. These were just some ideals. We're trying to get in line with the district's one RCSD campaign, you know. So, in thinking of that, I was like, propose strength and unity as the theme for the forum. And that could go either way. The N could be I-N or A-N-D, you know. I'm up for any suggestions for other topics. The topics that I had down was social-emotional, code of conduct, budget, and facilities, FMP. Facility, that means Facility Modernization Program.
So there was a suggestion for instruction, academic achievement, and safety.
Construction?
Academic instruction.
Instruction, okay, yeah.
So, you know, and that includes, part of what could be included in there is data, where we are now, where we're hoping to be, and you know, that's just what I'm thinking off the top of my head. You know, how does the community help us around instruction?
Okay, yeah, it's a good one there.
I just wanted to clarify for Commissioner Patterson. I know you brought up the school safety piece, and I know part of what's on the current proposed agenda is the code of conduct, and I guess the question is, what else are you looking for school safety? Will be the question as.
It will be a community conversation on
I'm sorry.
school safety.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Excuse me. It will be a community conversation on school
on
safety.
just school
So
safety.
the
Okay.
importance of it now, working toward a goal.
Gotcha.
Okay, so with the board planning, we also want to talk about this legislative breakfast that we got coming up. And the suggested date for that is February 11th at 10 a.m. But again, nothing is written in stone here. We try to do things collaborative, in a collaborative way. We want to make sure that the administration is fine with that. That works for them. But that's the date we're putting out there. And we get some feedback from them. What are the commissioners' thoughts on having it in person or in Zoom, or on Zoom?
Probably
A
both of
legislative breakfast? I'm sorry, Madam President, go ahead.
I was just going to say probably both. People who can't make it in person and those that can make it in person. And then, of course, part of the decision is going to it will be based on where we are in terms of the pandemic. So hopefully that won't have an impact, but you never know.
Yeah.
And then when is February recess?
That begins the 20th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, no, I didn't even think about another pandemic. That was, I was hoping that's something you only experience once in a lifetime.
Hopefully.
But if you do with that suggestion, we're all ready to go to Plan B. It's already set in motion.
And we may, if we do it also Zoom, Mr. Chairperson, you know, people from around the state may be able to participate in it.
By Zoom.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Yeah, we had extremely good participation last year through Zoom. And then the year before that, there was my first year. It was not well attended as it could be. Even local people that didn't show up. A lot of politics. There was a lot of politics involved the first time around. So, but we also could look at early March too. It doesn't have to be February. It could be early March. Like I said, moving forward, what was most successful about last year's legislative breakfast is that we worked together with the administration. And so that is my intentions as chair of this committee to work with the administration. And it also promotes one RCSD campaign. It promotes that. So any last thoughts on this agenda, proposed agenda? Commissioner Powell?
Yeah, you didn't talk specifically about the legislative priorities, although you did mention the date for the legislative breakfast. I'd like to offer a suggestion under funding priorities. It was timely that we got that report from the Children's Agenda on the pre-K funding, but as I commented then, the CTE funding continues to be flat and has been for even longer than pre-K has been around. And while we are blessed to have, in theory, full foundation aid funding coming in our direction, CTE funding is outside of foundation aid. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a bullet of its own, but perhaps adding CTE funding to the existing bullet, maybe, just to make sure that we recognize that that is currently flat funding. It does not include ninth graders. It only goes from 10th to 12th grade. And it does not cover the kind of expenses that come with running a CTE program, precisely because the funding level hasn't been increased in at least since 2008, if I'm remembering right. And obviously, every cost has gone up. Salaries, the cost of supplies that go into CTE programs, everything.
Okay, yeah, I support that too. We probably could put that, yeah, like you said, we could combine it. Yeah. Anyone else?
Commissioner Adams, I have my little hand up again.
Okay.
I wanted to, talk about the date that you mentioned. I personally would support a March date, especially if we did it both combination in person and on Zoom. So February is still kind of a peak time for illnesses, and I do think we could probably track some of the percentages of incidences and folks with both the flu and COVID, because flu season will be starting as well. And it should be wrapping up by February. So the other thing I would just want to point out weather-wise, that February is always a very winter, snow-heavy month in the city of Rochester. So something to think about if we're asking people to commute in as well. And March tends to slow some things up in terms of diseases are trending back downward, and snow is also starting to trend down a little bit. Although it still gets snow, we just don't get the same amount of snow. February is just always a hard-hitting month in Rochester. And then for the priorities legislation, I would support, and on your sheet here, it says funding for pre-K, and it says support an increase to the county reimbursement. I think that we actually have to ask the state for the reimbursement. And if the state was to reimburse a greater percentage both to the district, and that it would potentially impact the county as well, and then their reimbursement, but certainly they should be a part of the conversation. But the county's not going to reimburse if they're not getting a reimbursement from the state at a higher level. And it's what we deal with, because we reimburse our CBOs based on the reimbursement we get from the state. So certainly would love to support that. I see that it's crossed off for the MOE annual increase to, I still want us to advocate for a percentage. I know that the mayor is not, our current mayor, Mayor Evans, is not going to support that. He already said that in the last legislative priority. But I do believe that we should still be fighting for a percentage for the MOU, and not a certain amount that with inflation, the percentage goes lower and lower. And when I met with Jennifer a few weeks ago, and I'll talk about some updates in finance around this, but when I met with Jennifer a few weeks ago, we are now in the same tier as Syracuse with getting less than 10% of their city reimbursement out of the big five. So all the other big fives, they still get a much larger percentage than what we're getting from our city, except for Syracuse, which we just found out doing some research on that. So I just want to put that out there that that is something that we should, I believe, should still be fighting for, is that our MOU is a percentage of the city's total budget at the same amount that it was enacted, almost 20 years ago. That's all. Thank you.
So I would agree with us continuing to advocate for a higher percentage, but I won't agree with you in reference to February being all that. Boy, March and April in Rochester is snow. I don't know what Rochester you live in, March and April it's terrible.
Hold on, Ricardo. Commissioner Adams, I just got to tell you how I know February is one of the worst winter months, because I have one child born in February, and every year that child's birthdays get trashed by a winter storm, so we don't have birthday parties. in February for her because of that very reason. She's about to be 12. So I just want to put that out there. We tend to move her birthday parties over to March where it is a little bit less heavy snow. That's how I know. It's the only reason I know the weather for the month of February.
Commissioner Powell.
Okay, those are interesting anecdotes, but here's the dilemma. The state, if it passes its budget on time, April 1st, that means that it's doing some of its most important negotiations in between the different legislative bodies throughout March. And we need to make sure that our legislative agenda is in front of them, all of them, before they start having their conversations. So my advocacy, like your own, Commissioner Adams, would be February.
Commissioner, I also wanted to add on to what Commissioner Powell just stated. The Monroe County School Board Association's breakfast is actually scheduled for February the 5th, so that would be the week before. So if it was to happen in February, it will also align with what's happening locally.
Okay. Commissioner Patterson.
I'm also fine with the February date, and maybe you could do some type of Survey Monkey or something like that, whatever we utilize. See what date works for everyone.
It wasn't even so much leaning on the date as it was leaning on Zoom or in person. So I guess we could go with both. I guess there's a way of going with both. All right. So we'll be discussing this a little further at the next CIGR committee in November. But between now and then, if you have suggestions, or opinions, or anything, just email me or call me. You know, that'll be fine. And with that, I'm going to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I call it out is I am, for the policy committee, have a different version of the poll. And so if folks pay attention, would like to really pay attention to the questions in yours, and then compare them to the end of my meeting, and it'll allow for folks to give me better feedback as to whether I'm asking good questions, meaningful questions, and whether we're moving towards a better tool. Okay?
Okay, so we're going to do the board meeting poll here. I was always wondering about that. Do we do two boards if we have two different committees? But we do, so we do. I'm looking for it right now. Okay, let's complete this board poll.
It's for CIGR. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Adams?
Yes, Mr.
Just a quick heads up, I'm unable to fill out the poll. I can't log into Board Docs from this computer, unfortunately, so I will fill it out later.
Okay. We have 6. We're missing one. We'll give.
Yes, me.
That's you.
I was like Commissioner Malloy. I thought I was logged in, but I was logged out. Okay.
Okay, we're all set with that. And so now I ask for a motion to adjourn
Motion.
CIGR.
Second.
I think Commissioner Powell seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Turn over the gavel.
Thank you. With the policy committee set to begin and offer folks a comfort break, be advised, however, the plumbing, the water's been shut off, so you may have a little trouble flushing the toilets. For real,
But we're getting a break.
the water was shut off. Well, there was actively a worker on the third floor, so you might have to go down to the second floor. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We're back to part 2 of the Tuesday night meetings. This is the Policy Committee of the Whole. We were expected to start at 7, but it's 7:30. The previous meeting went a little bit long. Before we can meet, we need to contend with the fact that we have 3 people on video and our policy only allows for 1 at a time. So if someone here would like to offer a motion. We have a motion to suspend the
Second.
Policy 2350 and a second from Commissioner Adams. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we can proceed. We have the agenda before you. I would entertain a motion to approve this agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Elliott and seconded by Commissioner Patterson. That's where you beat you to it, Commissioner Adams. Discussion, requests for additions, subtractions. All in favor?
Aye.
Am I going too fast for you, Charisma?
Nope, you're
Are we
good.
doing this voting electronically, or
For the policies, yes.
when we get to the
Yes,
policies?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 is speakers. We have no speakers on the agenda. Item 3, standing agenda items, starts with the approval of the minutes of August 23, 2022.
Motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Elliott, second by Commissioner Patterson. Discussion. I do have a discussion item. It's my recollection that although Commissioner LeBron was on video and often not visible, she was visible and did cast her vote on the policy, the parent involvement policy, if my recollection is right. Does that jive with other people's recollection? She's currently listed as not present for vote on the, where is the parent involvement policy?
So the issue was Vice President LeBron was like present, but her camera was off because I can't actually remember why, but I do recall that her camera was off, so her actual vote couldn't be taken. I can't remember if she was on her way here or traveling or something, but her camera was off for the I believe the entire meeting.
Well, I think you're mostly right. I think for most of the votes, she was not visible, and therefore her vote could not be counted. But I think, and I'm asking my colleagues to refresh my memory, I think she was both on and visible and audible. And the reason I think that is because I commented that that I was appreciative that she was able to cast her vote for the parent involvement policy. Commissioner LeBron, are you on? Can you confirm or deny what I've just said?
I have no idea. I don't know what date you're talking about, and I'm just living day to day at this point. But thank you. I'm okay with me being reflected as absent.
Okay. Would folks be comfortable having Charisma check the record and maybe put this, these minutes aside and vote on them again next month when we're sure? I'm offering an opportunity to table them.
To what?
To table the motion to approve minutes so that we can get clarity on that. It was videotaped, we can know for sure. Tabling the motion.
So is there any, what will that affect?
Accuracy of the record.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's pretty important to me, but if
You want to table them for that?
you're casting a motion to table coming from Commissioner Patterson.
Okay,
Anyone want to second that?
I'm seconding.
Is it to a certain date?
The next monthly policy committee meeting. Was that a second, Commissioner Adams?
Yeah, that's seconded.
Thank you. It's not debatable. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for indulging me. I wish I'd brought it up to Charisma before so that she could check the videotape, but it's water over the dam now, right? The next item on the agenda is the item 3B, review of NYSSBA policy recommendations. That would be Adrian, if you would.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Powell. So there were several updates from NYSSBA for this month. I believe they sent a combined installment of possible NYSSBA updates to their policies. They are listed and accessible through our board docs, but I will go through them very briefly. And I will start with one that, as NYSSBA indicated, it didn't really change the actual policy much, but they updated the legal citations, and that is policy 0115, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention. All district policies impact students, but some are a little bit more immediate than others, and this is one of those. So there is a pretty notable decision and that the Supreme Court had in Mahoney Area School District, DLV Mahoney, and some of the board might have heard this was a case where some off-campus conduct. There was a student who posted some images to Snapchat. The photo was visible to about 250 friends. The photo was accompanied by a caption included, some expletives, expletive school, expletive softball, expletive chair, and the student was suspended from the team. So you had other team members who complained, and the student was suspended. And this case is notable because made it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court essentially held that the school district doesn't have the ability to necessarily discipline for all kind of off-campus speech. And the court considered whether the student's speech was criticism, whether it involved features that would place it outside of the First Amendment protection, and things of that nature. So that case has a number of impacts for how school districts can potentially discipline for off-campus speech and conduct, and it's pretty significant given the social media age. And you will notice that, and I start with that policy and that case because that really reflects a lot of the updates that NYSSBA had to give this month, and they've kind of reflected that in a number of the other policy updates. So that's policy 015, and that one is one that is actually working its way through our policy committee, and we're getting ready to, I believe, forward out tonight. And so the update that NYSSBA is really getting is the case citation for that Supreme Court decision. Some of the other policy updates include NYSSBA's policy 2310 regarding regular meetings. They revised this policy to cross-reference separate policies on video conferencing at the board meetings. We don't have a policy, well, we do have policy 2350 that relates to video conferencing, but we don't have a standalone policy on simply meetings. That is incorporated in the board bylaws in policy 2300. And again, 2350, our video conferencing policy, references when the board can meet under virtual situations. And so I think eventually we might need to tweak 2350 to update it. Because NYSSBA, one of the other policy recommendations is 2325, and they essentially say we have developed this policy to address requirements of the open meeting law regarding video conferencing. Again, we have much of this policy covered by policy 2350, but I think policy 2350 does need some updating. The other update is policy 2340. This policy deals primarily with notice for board meetings. Again, we have directives on notice covered in board bylaws in policy 2300. And then the board may choose to kind of take a look at this and kind of tweak some of the notice requirements. Policy 2360, minutes, right, which is pertinent given some of the conversations that were just had. Minutes are referenced in the board bylaws in policy 2300. Again, the board can take a look at policy 2300 and determine whether to add some more specific directives in regards to board minutes. One of the other policy recommended updates is 55225, that's a student personal expression. And again, they indicated they revised a policy to address student-free expression, and added some additional background notes on handling student behavior as it pertains to student personal expression and expanded definition of race under the Crown Act. The district does have a student publication policy, 5220, and again, some of the policies, the policy numbers that I'm giving and the names of the policies, the district does not necessarily have adopted that policy number or policy name. We may address, we have addressed pretty much every issue in a different policy or under a different format. So if you're looking to kind of cross-reference, and that's why I'm going through this process of explaining when we have an applicable policy, even though it doesn't necessarily have the same policy number. So we do have a student publication policy, that's policy 5220. That policy was passed in 1998, so that's one that the district may want to update. And I believe the final update that NISBA forwarded was to policy 5300.30, prohibited student conduct. And they indicated that the suggested revisions include addressing off-campus behavior, and they've included a background note regarding implementation and a citation to the recent Supreme Court ruling, again, which I just talked about in the Mahoney case. We do not, again, if you're looking for policy 5300 on the district website, you're not going to find it. That is policy 1400 for us, or code of conduct. So we address prohibited student conduct in a code of conduct policy. And again, we are having meetings right now with a committee that was put together to review the code of conduct and implementation, and to advance suggestions on tweaks and changes to the board. That is it.
Thank you, Adrian. Questions to be directed to our legal counsel, Commissioner Patterson?
Yes, thank you. General Counsel Neal, I printed off some of these documents earlier today and reviewed it as much as possible, and I hate to assume things, so I have a question. Actually, it was for my colleague who was going to explain later, but since you brought it up relative to, let's see, 115, policy 115, Student Harassment and Bullying Prevention and Intervention Act. In my review, again, I hate to assume, and I did Google it, but I don't know if I came up with the proper definition, but I see here in the notes, it talks about the Crown Act. Mm-hmm. Could you explain that to me and our audience so we know how that applies to policy 115?
Yeah, so the Crown Act, and again, they kind of give a brief description here at the beginning, specifies that discrimination on the basis of race includes traits historically associated with race, such as hair texture and hairstyle like braids, locks, and twists. And so it's really a law that went into effect to avoid discrimination based on certain appearances that are, maybe unique to certain races. So you can't really discriminate against someone based on a particular hairstyle, or if someone has, as I said, braids, locks, and twists, and things of that nature.
Thank you for the clarification.
As in crowning glory, right? One's hair is one's crowning glory.
Good.
Okay, any other questions?
That's it, thank you.
Any questions from my other colleagues? How about folks on Zoom? No questions from anyone on Zoom, okay? In that case, thank you, Legal Counsel Neal, and we will move on to item 4, new business, with a presentation on the district goals, which basically summarizes everything in our on our agenda tonight. Charisma, Commissioner Charisma.
Future. Seeds planted.
Okay, so this presentation is regarding district goals 0100 through 0400. As always, the policy roadmap, we started in subcommittee where the policy subcommittee reviewed this policy block. It was sent to executive cabinet for review and then brought back to subcommittee, and now this policy block is in front of you all. The contributors to the review of the policies included the individuals on screen. The committee met bi-weekly. And so in regard to the recommendations for 0100, district policy prohibiting discrimination or harassment of students or employees. The significant changes here is that updated the overview of race to include language from NSBA's updated policy based on the law and incorporated gender-neutral language. NSBA had recommended that this policy had been updated. 010 is gender-neutral single occupancy bathrooms. No significant changes. This is a new policy. Student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention, policy 0115, incorporated language throughout the policy from NSBA's updated policy, and so NSBA has updated this policy. Equity and educational excellence, policy 0201, is recommended changing the number from 0201 to 0105 to align with NSBA's policy numbering system. The question out there is also, should the policy name change to equity, inclusivity, and diversity in education to also align with NSBA instead of what we currently have as our current policy name? NSBA has recommended that this policy can be moved to policy 0105 to align with their coding system. Small school units, policy 0220, is recommended rescinding policy due to it not being a current practice of our district. NSBA has recommended to please review carefully to ensure this represents the current practice of the district. The district may wish to have this reviewed by the school attorney to ensure its legal compliance. And then policy 0400, school improvement plan, there are no significant changes. NSBA has recommended that this policy has been updated. And so currently from this batch, the sexual harassment policy 0110 is what is missing from the batch today.
And that's missing because it's still under review by cabinet, or?
So that policy is actually still under review by our general counsel. NSBA had some recommendations to split the policy into, I believe it was like, Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was like 3 or 4 policies based on how they broken down. I know Adrian has been reviewing it.
Right, yeah, they made some recommendations, again, as I kind of previously described. Our kind of policy numbers don't necessarily always align with NSBA's, and sometimes they will have some things in one policy that they split amongst like 3 or 4 different policies. I thought our policy as is, that the district would provided more clarity as a single policy with some additions, with some additions from the recommendation. So as opposed to creating 3 or 4 new policies, I will just add in some things from NISBA's recommendation, but keep it as a singular policy. So that work is continuing.
Thank you. So,
And so next steps, if the policies are forwarded out of this policy committee, they will be forwarded to our next business meeting in September. And it will follow our policy 2410. And then by our November business meeting, the policies will be up for board vote. And that is all.
thank you, Charisma. Appreciate it. Okay, so moving our way through new business, item 4B.
Oh, I did have a couple of questions on the presentation.
Please.
So I would just say, I know what SOP stands, but I would just ask that that be spelled out for our viewing audience. That's on page 3, Madam Chairwoman, where it says SOP, that we spell that out for our community.
Ah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Yep.
Okay. And then the small school units, I guess I need to be clear that that we may not have an opportunity where we need to go back, well, with some of our schools and still have this policy. And I guess I'll ask the interim superintendent about this. You know, it's better to, I would think, have it on the books and not have it, but of course we go through these policies pretty regularly so that if we need to have it on as a policy, we can. But I guess I just will have that concern that if in some of our schools we are having, you know, that kind of a model, or may have that kind of a model, that we don't remove it as a policy.
So we'll have a more fulsome discussion about that as we go through each of these individually.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
that'll give Interim Superintendent Peluso time to think about exactly what he wants to say on this
Okay.
matter, okay?
Thank you.
All right, so let us, if we may, start with 4B, the policy 0100. I would entertain a motion to forward this version out of policy committee to the full board.
So moved.
I have a motion from President Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Patterson. Sorry, he beat you to it, Commissioner Adams. Discussion. Questions, comments? Anyone from Zoom, on Zoom? No questions. How many of us are currently present? I see the 4 on the dais. Are all 3 board members available on Zoom? I see Commissioner Malloy is there.
Yeah, I see Commissioner.
I'm here, but I don't have to be on camera unless I'm voting.
Well, we're about to take a vote.
But, right, so I know how to come on there. But if you give me one moment, Commissioner Powell, I am looking at this, so I may have a question. But if you want to continue some parts of the discussion, I'm okay with that. I was taking a look at something.
Okay. Well, the motion on the floor is to advance policy 0100 to the full board. I'm not hearing any discussion. So prepared to call for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? It carries unanimously. Thank you. The next policy in our packet is policy 0101. I would entertain a motion to advance this to the full board.
Motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Patterson, second by Commissioner Malloy. Discussion. This is largely, am I mistaken, Adrian, is this largely driven by the new state laws?
Yes, I mean, new state laws and guidance from New York State and the Department of Education.
Thank you. No questions? No hands on Zoom? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And no for me.
And one nay from Commissioner Elliott. So that's a 6-1 vote. Thank you, everyone. Oh, we have the electronic voting, if anyone wishes to use the electronic voting.
I don't have it. Some of us
Oh,
have it.
you didn't log in?
Yeah, some of us have it, some of us don't.
All right. Okay, the next item is 4D, Policy 0115, bullying prevention. I think this, is this, Adrian, also this is very specifically affected by the Supreme Court?
Right, because again, because of the implications for speech and how much can be allowed. Yes, so this policy, there are some implications. Again, it doesn't, there are already school districts that already have some power to regulate speech a little bit more than your typical organization, but it is impacted to a degree. And this was one of the ones that I just gave the update about in the policy update.
Thank you. So could I have a motion to move this to the full board?
Motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Patterson, seconded by Commissioner Malloy. Discussion. Questions from Zoom? None? I'll call for a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? I think we're going to get prompted for an electronic vote for those of us who are.
Do you, I guess, Commissioners, do you prefer for me to do it manually, or do you want to do it online? Because I know we have a couple that's on Zoom.
Well, I did hear one person is not able to log on. I'm not sure about the others. So
Yeah, I had a question about that, Commissioner Powell. If we did choose to vote online, we still need to come on camera
Yes.
to do that,
Yes.
even if it's electronic, right?
Yes, you do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can continue taking it manually then.
We'll just do a voice vote because.
Yeah, because
it's-
mine is not coming up.
It's
in
almost
the-
faster that way.
So I'll just let, so for this one, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to policy 0201, and this is because it involved something, some element of title change discussion, might spend a little bit of time on it. Could I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Elliott, President Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Patterson. Discussion. As our General Counsel indicated, NYSBA is, or our PowerPoint presentation, I beg your pardon, there's some discussion about changing the name to read Equity, Inclusivity, and Diversity in Education. How do folks feel about that? That is kind of the nomenclature du jour on this topic.
I'm fine with it, if that's recommended.
Any other feedback? Are folks, I don't want to take a vote on the whole, actually, is that the only potential change, Adrian, to this whole policy of the name? Because I'm looking at the 8-track changes version.
Yeah, on the version that I'm seeing, that is the only recommendation as well.
Right.
It's also the number. This is the
And the
one.
number would change from 0201 to 0105, right. So really, that's the only question is, do we want to change the name to be in sync with the language that NYSBA and SED are using?
I'm a yes vote.
Okay. Commissioner Adams, any ideas?
I think consistency is helpful. If the language consistency is usually helpful, so I would obliged to doing that.
Thank you for that feedback. Commissioner Elliott, how do you feel about that?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. So the actual, so we opened the discussion with a motion to advance this to the full board, but the policy before us does not have the name change. Who made the motion?
I made it, I think.
Commissioner Patterson, would you be willing to change your motion to include the name change?
Yes.
And who seconded it?
I thought I made the motion.
Yeah, it was, so President Elliott made the motion and then
Would
Commissioner Patterson seconded.
So what are we changing the name
So-
to?
So the proposal is to change the name to Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity in Education,
Is recommended.
which is what's recommended by NISBA. Would you be willing to change your motion to include the change of name and number?
Let somebody else make that motion.
I'm sorry?
Somebody else can make that motion.
A motion.
She can motion.
As an amendment to?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to amend the current motion being to advance the policy to the full board. And so the amendment is to change the name and number?
Yes.
We have a motion to amend. Do we have a second?
I second.
Commissioner Adams seconds. So voting first on the amendment. Well, let me ask, any further discussion on Zoom? All right. We will go to a vote on the amendment to change the name and the number. All in favor?
Aye.
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 No for me.
Aye.
Okay. We have one nay in Commissioner Elliott, and I assume 6 yays. I saw everybody on Zoom, but I didn't hear everybody on Zoom.
Aye.
Thank you. Do we have the vote, Charisma?
I just want to make sure I got this correctly. So it's 6-1 with President Elliott a
Yes.
nay? Okay.
If there's no disagreement with that, then that's what the record will show. That takes us to the original motion, which was to advance the policy to the full board. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Any nays? Hearing none, it sounds like that carried 7-0. Okay? Thank you so much. That brings us to item 4F, which is policy 0220, small school units. And this, Commissioner Elliott, is the topic that you wanted to discuss. And with your indulgence, since we did already hear your question, I'll turn the floor over to Acting Superintendent Peluso.
That's fine. Thank you. So policy 0220, although a good practice to have some small school units and a best practice to create those small learning communities, it is not a policy that we're currently following or implementing by all of the parameters that are in place. So for me, if we're not going to be following this policy, then it should be rescinded, or it would need to be revised to be more accurately reflected. But as a policy, I think what I see more here is best practices versus a policy that we're actually implementing.
So we don't foresee having this kind of a model in the next year or the next, well, let's just say the next year. So we don't see that as needing to have a policy for.
Correct.
For this.
Or how this policy is currently outlined, I don't see us in that situation.
Okay.
So to be crystal clear about that, the thing is that it's a little bit like the organization for instruction. Even if we were not doing it, then it should be treated as long as it's on the books, should be treated as the blueprint and something that we move towards with every change. And so we had, at different times, we've exercised small school units. We've put 2 schools on 1 campus, for example. That's a prime example of small school units. But we've never really pressed for that concept to be expanded into any and all of our larger schools. And as Acting Superintendent Peluso said, if we're not, as a board, going to insist on that being a model that's projected into our schools in the future, then it may, the administration always has the prerogative to do it as a matter of best practice, but would no longer, we would no longer have kind of that grappling hook to demand enforcement of small school units if it's not in our policy manual.
So, yeah, so, oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, go ahead, Madam President, I'll go after you.
Yeah, go ahead and ask your follow-up question.
Yeah, so Franklin is not considered having small schools, or Monroe is not considered having small schools, or East is not considered having small schools? And
So-
what's the definition of a small school? How many students have to be in a small school?
So by how this policy is outlined, no, I would not consider them a small school, right? Because I think even within this policy, there is an application process that needs to happen, right? People need to submit for it. Those are not practices that currently are in place. If we wanted to look at small schools and have once again, a best practice around it, but this also talks about the opportunity for the superintendent to receive applications for small schools, look at governance around small schools. So all of those we currently don't do. That's why this policy, I think, was initiated in '98, and I don't believe it's been reviewed or seen since.
All right, thank you.
Well, I would say it was used once dramatically, and that was when the Franklin campus was broken up into 4 distinct school units. But that also is a thing of the past now. So it had a few examples of being actively used as a way to organize school improvement, but it kind of died on the vine. Commissioner Patterson.
Yes, again, for clarification, because I'm just not one to assume, when you're talking about small schools, are we talking about small class sizes?
Commissioner, Superintendent.
So there is reference in the policy to smaller class sizes, right? But it doesn't indicate exactly that you have to have smaller class sizes. I look at it like Commissioner Powell just said, what happened at the Franklin campus into 4 schools. I believe we did it at Edison at one point in time where they went into 4 schools, so it became several schools within a school. That's after those two models. I don't believe we have a small school unit that we put into play or we've used this policy for since then.
Well, should we, again, for smaller class size, or sizes, so should we rewrite this policy, or rather than get rid of it, should we?
So class sizes are contractual as well, right? So I think there's some of that. We could, if you wanted to put us in a direction of best practice or put us in a direction, but we do have some contract obligations with class sizes. So once again, what I read in the small schools unit policy is there are best practices. They're not really policies that we're currently following. So I mean, if we wanted to look at a complete revision of this policy, I think that's where you'd have to go versus, you know,
I'd like to have some conversation more around this than getting rid of it right now. Because like you said, it was a keyword, revision. Do we revise it somewhat? Do we adapt it? Because I think it's very important that our students, that we do reduce the size of classes, that I think they've learned better in smaller class sizes. Again, that's some of the information that's come back to me and some of the learning, that I've been in and around through my educational experience is that smaller class sizes are conducive to learning. So can we at least have some conversation, around that, maybe revising the policy, and, we'll just take it from there.
Yep, I would look at what the spirit of the policy was originally for, right? And I don't know if it was written really around class sizes, it was written around schools, right? So what's the spirit of the policy? And we're not following it now, so that's where my recommendation would come. But it's just not a policy that's currently being in practice, not followed, and the spirit of it was really around schools.
Thank you.
To your point, Commissioner Patterson, if we wanted to scour our policy manual for language about small class sizes, there's nothing in this policy, not a single word in this policy that speaks to small class sizes.
Right.
So that conversation does not need to be oriented around this particular policy. It's a great idea to advance board conversation about class size, but I'm not sure that hanging it off of this policy, I'm not sure that that's a reason to slow down a decision on this policy. Now, if there are concerns that other board members have about whether or not we should be insisting on small school units, that's another question. And I'd like to hear from other board members about that. Commissioner Adams or anyone who's on Zoom, if you'd like to chime in. Commissioner Malloy, you've come on screen. Do you have any comments? None?
There's a hand.
Commissioner LeBron?
Yeah, I put my hand up. I know it's really hard to see and I don't want to just be jumping in, but I'm actually in agreement with just getting rid of it. And classroom sizes is something that's contractual, but I would advise that we all go back and potentially reread Dr. Jallo's recommendations, which says that we should be actually following within the contract. If folks want to have the administration, re-look at negotiations for contract, I think we would have to also figure out the financial consequence of that. So in regards to this policy tonight, I'm in agreement that we should get rid of it. I hate that we hold on to policies that we no longer implement, no longer meet our needs, or no longer apply, and they're still on the books. So I do appreciate the concept of just getting rid of it if it doesn't apply. Thank you.
Commissioner LeBron, I've just realized I have not put, we do not have a motion on the floor. Would you like to move that the recommendation to rescind be advanced to the full board?
Yes, I'll motion that.
Okay. Would anyone like to second? Commissioner Elliott is seconding that. I don't mean to cut off debate with that. I just realized that we had started our debate too soon. Commissioner Patterson?
And I'd like to say one more thing. It has nothing to do with class size. Again, this is a learning curve for me. So I'm for getting rid of it also, if that's what your recommendations are. So.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else on Zoom want to chime in on this topic? Commissioner Adams, you're okay with this?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, we'll cast our formal vote then. All in favor of advancing the motion to, advancing the recommendation to rescind to the full board?
Aye.
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 Any nays? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to item 4G, the School Improvement Plan Policy 0400. Can I get a motion to advance this to the full board? I have a motion.
Second.
Oh, it's a tie. I'll give it to Commissioner Malloy. Discussion? I do see a change to the reference, just as our general counsel mentioned, and, or was that you mentioned it? No comments, questions from Zoom? No? In that case, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I see Commissioner Simmons now too. Very good. That, I think, was a 7-0 vote. And that, I think, concludes, I have a 4H on, oh, I see a discussion about our committee members. You want to explain that to folks, Charisma?
Yep, no problem. So just as an update with our Code of Conduct Committee, we currently have 25 members. The Code of Conduct the Code of Conduct Committee met for its first meeting last week, Wednesday. Currently, we're working to finalize the members to include more diversity, both with staffing, raise stakeholders, including more students, for example. So our next meeting will be next Wednesday. We did have 3 of our commissioners who attended and were very engaged with that committee.
Okay.
And so hopefully next month in our policy meeting, I will have an update with more information as to where we are with the committee. And then in regards to well, I guess first, is there any questions about the Code of Conduct Committee? In regards to the policy website?
Yes, please go to that.
So just as an update, one of the things that's in our academic plan was making our policies the translation for our other families that, speak other languages besides English. And so this is just an example. I started working with our communications team, and so currently there are 4 languages that are available to our families, English, Nepali, Somali, and Spanish. So the difference is that now 000 educational philosophy is the example policy. So the rest of the policies will be worked on to look like this. So currently there are 4 languages. And so, for example, if I wanted to do like Somali, I click and it's already translated. So it's an actual PDF document. It's not the website translating, it's actual PDF document, so our families can actually print it off and be able to see that. And so I know our communications team is still hiring other translators, and so of course, we'll translate those documents based on the translators available, but I will be creating a plan on continuing to translate our policies, the ones that have been updated, and I know based on Commissioner Powell's recommendation and request, we'll start with policies that deals with our students and parents first before we translate the other ones.
Any questions or concerns about what Charisma has just shared? I think this is going to be a huge step forward in terms of our visibility to parents who speak other languages. And as she said, we want to focus on those policies that directly affect students and parents first and foremost, and then work our way through other policies that we have reviewed and updated. So thank you, Charisma, for all your hard work in finding solutions. I think the communications team had a big hand in that. Ms. Lopez, thank you so much for your work on that as well. And please share our thanks with the rest of your team.
I just have one question
Please.
line to that. Do we have a significant hearing impaired population that may need to have access to our services, to our website?
So in terms of the website, they are able to access that. If we do receive requests for different meetings, we are able to fulfill that. We haven't had many. Our meetings on YouTube and Facebook are closed captioned.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the FYI items? Hearing none, unless there are any observations for the good of the order, I ask folks to complete the survey. This is a different survey than the one you completed for the Community and Intergovernmental Relations Committee. Some of the questions are very similar, the ones on the top in particular, but they differ as you go down. And please don't hold it against me that we started at 7:30. It wasn't my fault.
Oh, I was going to mark no, so since you said that, I'll mark yes.
What's that?
I said I was going to mark no, but since you said that, I'll make yes.
Oh, thank you.
I'll do yes.
Charisma has assured me that she's going to share with me some of the past surveys from our meetings. Because we meet monthly, we have perhaps a deeper compilation of committee meetings than some of the others, and it will be interesting to try to get a benchmark and actually start working through and seeing how we can make our meetings better, more efficient, more user-friendly. Thank you.
Done? Is there any executive session?
Again, one last time, if you can think of better questions to ask than what I have, please share them with me offline, and I'll look towards amending the poll.
Commissioner Powell,
Yes?
before we end the meeting, can I just wish everyone a happy first day of school tomorrow and this week? Because I know we're meeting tonight, but it is the first day of school tomorrow for lots of kids in the district, mine's included, and I'm sure other commissioners who have children in the district. Their children will also be starting tomorrow, so if we could just take the time before this meeting ends to wish everybody a good first day and week of school.
Yeah, I think that qualifies as for the good of the order. Thank you for pointing that out. Do you have anything to say, Acting Superintendent Peluso, about tomorrow?
Absolutely. I want everyone in bed early. And I know how the first day of sleeping on the night before gets a little tough. But I do have to say, I've been in buildings today, and the level of excitement across the district has been great. You know, everyone's looking forward to kids entering the buildings tomorrow. I do have to thank the staff for everything they did, and the board, right? Because this was one of those things, when you say one RCSD, you know, the changes the board made that allowed us to bring forth some candidates to hire and do some things differently was one of the things that made this lift. And, you know, we have all our positions filled for tomorrow, and that's something that we're, you know, and like I said, July 22nd, it wasn't what we shared at that point in time. So I thank the board, I thank the community, I thank our staff, and, you know, for preparing for our kids tomorrow. And we're looking forward to a great school year. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
I'm sorry.
What?
My apologies. I thought we had an executive session.
We do,
No?
but I was going to let her adjourn the committee.
Oh,
And then ask for a motion, and she'll turn it over to me. And then I was going to ask for a
You
motion.
know how I hate having executive sessions tacked onto my committee meetings.
See there? See there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But thank you.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion,
I think the first one I heard was Commissioner Patterson, and the second,
you give it to Commissioner
Commissioner
Malloy.
That's all good.
thank you. All in
Commissioner Elliott,
favor?
whoever.
Aye.
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 So, thank you. So before we do the motion, I want to also share with the interim superintendent about tomorrow being first day of school. And I want you all to have a wonderful school year, not only our students, but our teachers and other staff in our district, and that this be a year that we set it off, that we really are increasing our academic proficiency, and that we're doing just about everything right. So I just wanted to just have some encouragement for the new year. And this is the year that we're going to think and say everything positive. We're not going to even entertain any negativity, and yet we know we got a lot of work to do. So just want to thank you all thank the administration for all of the hard work. We're off to a great start. Our community, I think, is encouraged, and let's just get this work done, so thank you. So with that, I will ask for a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of to discuss matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and to receive the advice of legal counsel. I think I heard Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second? Commissioner Patterson, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Good night, everybody.
Do we stay in this?